so in this lesson, we are going to be looking into analysis of non-human security threats. Non-human security threats. Security threats that are not as a result of human activities, all right, or that are not directly caused by human, all right. They are natural, in other words, natural security threats. And they are divided into three categories. The first one is geologic security threat. Second one is climatic security threat, and the last one is environmental security threat. So we have three categories of this. In one of our earliest lessons, we had actually touched all of this, and so we are just going to be digging deep into this again, all right, while these other ones, you are going to look into them in form of revision. Okay, so let's take the geologic security threat. Geologic security threat. We're just going to analyze tsunami and earthquake. All right, tsunami and earthquake, just to be sure that we still remember what we discussed in our earliest lesson. Now, this is a practical picture of a tsunami. All right, a tsunami. You can see the water explosion. Explosion right here. As you can see, it's tumbling. All right, it is tumbling. Heavy volume of water right there. So the word tsunami had its origin from Japan. All right, a Japanese word derived from tsu, all right, which means harbor, and nan, which means wave. All right, which means wave. So essentially, the word tsunami means massive waves around the harbor, capable of causing enormous destruction to lives and property. Okay, so just remember the two key words: waves, massive waves that happens around the harbor, and of course, as a security threat, it is capable of causing huge, enormous destruction to lives and property. Okay, so any type of wave that is not capable of causing destruction to life and property is not a tsunami, and of course it is not a security threat. All right, so let's see the effects of tsunami. The effect of tsunami, how dangerous it is, how catastrophic can it be. If you look into the image here, you'll see how it has brought down structures, critical structures, into rubbles. It has reduced them to nothing. A lot of destructions right there. You can see houses brought down. You can see ships waved out of the sea. A lot of dirty, disgusting environment right there. Okay, so it is destructive. It has a destructive wave speed. All right, a very destructive wave speed. That speed can kill. All right, it can kill. So that effect, in fact, this is the major element that causes most of the destruction that you see right there. Then it causes flooding. All right, you can have severe flooding by the effect of tsunami. You can have very severe flooding. It is also it has extensive damage to human beings and physical structure. You can see in the image here. Then you have it records a lot of casualties in public health. Where there's widespread of disease. All right, so in this type of environment, there's likely going to be the emergence of threatening disease. Okay, so it becomes a problem to public health. Now again, you can look at this picture and see that the water here may not be drinkable, and so it causes acute water shortage. Water that could be useful may not exist for some time. Okay, so a lot of dirty water and environment that is not habitable as a result of tsunami. Then food shortage, because agricultural land would have been destroyed. The topmost layer of the soil would have been washed away, and of course people cannot farm. Even existing crops would have been destroyed. So it's extremely difficult for people to now commence farming again and again produce food. So it causes acute food shortage. All right, so that's those are some of the effects of tsunami. So let's see how predictable tsunami can be. Is it predictable? Can people know about it before it happens? Well, it cannot be adequately predicted. All right, tsunami cannot be adequately predicted. That's because it gives very little warning sign. All right, it gives very little and sudden warning sign, so it cannot be adequately predicted, and of course it gives very little warning sign. All right, so let's now look into the vulnerability. Who are those that can fall victim, all right, that can suffer harm from tsunami? The vulnerability to tsunami, we have location of communities that are located below water level around the seismic zone are communities that can become absolutely vulnerable to any event of tsunami. Okay, those located around the hazard prone area of tsunami are likely going to suffer some damages. Now, the absence of mitigation measures and preparedness. Okay, for instance, those who build houses around tsunami-prone areas without tsunami-resistance materials. Okay, they are not prepared for any form of tsunami occurrence. Those people can also suffer a lot of. They can become vulnerable to any event of tsunami. Inability to issue prompt warning and notification. Now, because tsunami cannot be predicted easily, for you to be able to avoid the risk or the danger of suffering any harm, you must be prepared to issue swift warning and notification to inhabitants. Now, any community that lacks that capacity to issue that swift warning or notification to inhabitants is likely going to also suffer some casualties or become highly vulnerable to the event of tsunami. Now, poor education of the risk of tsunami. Poor education of the risk of tsunami. When people don't know about the risk of tsunami, especially those who live in tsunami-prone locations, and they are not properly educated, well, when the event occur, they may not be able to know what to do. Okay, and so they are likely going to become vulnerable. They are likely going to become vulnerable. All right. Now those are the elements of becoming vulnerable to tsunami. How about tsunami risk reduction or preparedness measure? Okay, in order not to become susceptible, in order not to become vulnerable to tsunami, what can you do? Now let's look at them. And the first one is to ensure that there's proper fortification with tsunami reduction material. Tsunami reduction material, proper fortification. For those who build structures around tsunami prone areas, they should build those structures with tsunami resistant materials. Right, the buildings have to be solid enough to resist any form of tsunami attack. Erection of water barriers, of course, where there are likelihood of tsunami, water barriers should be erected to reduce the speed of that destructive speed of the tsunami. Now, hazard mapping. Hazard mapping. Areas that are likely to have tsunami effect should be mapped, and people should be restricted from reaching such areas. Then there should be adequate evacuation plan where there is a hint that an area is prone to tsunami. The community or those living in there should be able to have adequate evacuation plans on ground, such that if there is such an event of tsunami, the people, inhabitants will be easily evacuated, and there will be less casualty. All right, the risk is going to be reduced. Putting in place effective warning system. A system where once a tsunami is noticed, every individual in the society is in that community is alert, right? It's alerted to begin to evacuate and move into a safe location. All right. So, how can the impact assessment of a tsunami be conducted? How can it be conducted? Tsunami impact assessment. One is by aerial survey. All right, aerial survey. The tsunami area has to be surveyed properly to be sure of the level of damage that has happened, and that goes hand in hand with damage survey to see what has been destroyed, the level of damage, the degree of havoc that has been impacted on the affected area. Then evaluation of public warning alert system to be sure that there is actually a public warning alert. All right, a public warning or alert in the community. That's another way to assess tsunami impact, to know if the alert system and evacuation plans are adequate enough to evacuate to reduce the level of damage. All right, so once these assessments, these are the basic assessment strategies, then this can now help those assessors take informed decisions on how to mitigate or to reduce the level of impact in any future occurrences. Okay, now what can individuals do in order to protect themselves? Individuals, safety measures. What can they do to protect themselves from the event of a tsunami? Well, information passing and hiding in a safe location. Well, once an individual is in a tsunami location, what the person has to do is to try as much as possible to inform others. All right, pass on the information that a tsunami is happening, and then move into hiding. All right, in a secured location, especially in an area of the house where there are no heavy substances that can fall on you, or that can be very threatening once they fall. Okay. Now, when an individual is outside, outside, and the tsunami is happening, such individuals should avoid areas with collapsible structures like electric poles, towers, masts, and all of that. It should be avoid those areas. Okay, it's even better to move into an open field and avoid where those structures can easily fall on you. Individuals should be sensitive to possible signs like drawbacks, etc. Sudden sinking of the tectonic plate. All right, this is more of a geologic term. Once you notice some drawbacks, some sinking, all right, it is good to begin to evacuate immediately. While on the beach, okay, for those who go to beach to enjoy themselves, alert other people if you notice a vibration. If you notice that the around the beach area is vibrating, you have to alert other people to take precaution and evacuate the area immediately. Now you need to move to the topmost floor of a building once a warning is issued. All right, move to the topmost floor in the event where evacuation is happening by way of helicopter. Okay, you can be easily sighted, and of course you will be taken away. If on board a ship, avoid sailing to the port. If you sail to the port while you are on board, you are likely going to suffer more damages. All right, so it's better to remain on sea and until the tsunami comes to a calm. Okay, so these are some of the individuals' safety measures that can be taken. All right, so let's move on to before we go into tsunami, I would like to share a video of a tsunami with you so you can see how it actually is and how destructive it can be. Let's say this video, just a minute. Okay. All right, so I'm going to play this video just for you to see, for you to watch. You can see how destructive it can be. see how, just look at that. That's the effect of a tsunami. See what's going on. All of those structures, if they were not built with tsunami resistance material, they are all likely to be brought down. All likely to be brought down. Okay. See what's going on there. So it's pulling that. It will bring down all of those houses. Okay, so that's it. Let's take maybe another video again, just to see if I can show you another video of tsunami. Alright, let's look at this. You can see how, see the force of the water. Look at that. Look at that vehicle there. It's all washed out. Okay. This is another scene. Very powerful and destructive type of threat. See? All of this gone. You can imagine she's taking the risk. See the explosion right there. Look at that. That's a tsunami. Alright, so let's pause it here and proceed with our presentation. Alright, so let's take the next one, which is earthquake. Let's look at earthquake. Alright, earthquake. I have a picture here showing rubbles of collapsed building right here as a result of earthquake. What is earthquake? It's an unexpected, alright, it is usually unexpected. Alright, so this should give you a hint that it is not predictable. Alright, you cannot really predict when it will happen. It is an unexpected and hazardous vibration resulting from the sudden shake of the earth crust. Sudden shake of the earth crust. Now, it has this is a simple definition of what earthquake is. Alright, simple definition: an unexpected and hazardous vibration resulting from the sudden shake of the earth crust. Earthquake usually has 2 points. Alright, the focus point, which is the point of origin underground where it begins, is called the focus point. The underground, that happens underground. You know, it's something that starts from beneath before the explosion actually happens. Before the vibration, and before the vibration actually happens. Yeah. So the second point is the epicenter. That is, it is directly above the focus on the surface. All right, the epicenter is directly above where it starts, and it's directly above the point of origin. So from the point of origin, the surface where it begins is called the epicenter. Where the impact is actually seen is called the epicenter. So in earthquake, we have 2 points: the focus point and the epicenter. All right, let's now look into effects of earthquake, just like we saw the effect of tsunami. The effect of earthquake here, you can see how damaging earthquake has been to this piece of land here. It is the shaking of land and ground ruptures. All right, it shakes the land, just a typical example here, and it ruptures the ground. Right, it can also cause fire. It can cause fire. How? When buildings with electrical appliances collapse, all right, there are likely going to be sparks, especially when it involves fuel station, petrol station, gas station. There are likely going to be explosions of fire. Then soil liquefaction. This entails soil losing its firmness. All right, it transforms to liquid. So earthquake can actually cause the hardened soil to actually become liquid. Earthquake can cause tsunami. Remember, we have explained that before. It can cause tsunami, it can cause flood. We have explained that how, because when this happens in the middle of the sea, right, in the middle of a large body of water, and there is that vibration, heavy vibration, that it tends to move the water volume massively. That movement of the water volume massively towards the shore can now cause tsunami, right, and also flood. All right, so that's the effect of earthquake. Now let's look into the how predictable is earthquake. Predictability, remember we said is sudden, it's unexpected. So by way of that definition, it cannot be adequately predicted. All right, earthquake cannot be adequately predicted. Its occurrence can be determined scientifically and based on probability. Well, science has done its best to try to predict its occurrence, but then it is subject to high probability. The chances of knowing when and how it will happen is absolutely slim. Okay, so it is based on high probability. All right, so let's move on to next one: vulnerability. Those who can become vulnerable to earthquake vulnerability. Again, it is not different from those that we have mentioned in the case of tsunami. The location of the community, once it's around the seismic area, it is likely going to become vulnerable. Areas that are prone to earthquakes, areas that are below the sea level, areas that are earthquake prone. All right. Okay, so building in seismic areas without appropriate fortification, building without earthquake resistance materials, tsunami resistance materials, likely going to become highly vulnerable. Densely populated communities in seismic areas. When you have people living in when the population of earthquake prone areas is extremely high, of course the number of casualties will be high. Okay, because once earthquake happens, a lot of people are likely going to be affected. The lack of risk reduction and knowledge. All right, when people living in such areas are really not adequately informed, when they are not knowledgeable about the risk of earthquake, then they are going to become victims. Okay, then absence of effective public warning system. We have discussed all of this. Okay, these are factors that could make people become highly vulnerable to earthquake. All right, let's move on to risk reduction. How do you want to reduce the risk? Well, just it is the opposite of the vulnerability elements, the opposite of the vulnerability factors. The first one is hazard mapping. The area needs to be mapped for people to know where to go and where not to go. There must be appropriate evacuation plan. All right, if on the event of an earthquake, what should happen? People should be able to know how to handle the situation. People should be able to have good plans, people in that community, on how to migrate inhabitants of that community in order not to be affected by the earthquake. Then public awareness, that is a form of education. People need to know the risk and what to do when there is an event of earthquake. Effective warning system, we have mentioned this. All right, there should be an effective alarm system such that people who may be affected by earthquake can be given that alarm to evacuate the area. All right, how about the impact assessment? How can it be assessed? How can the level of damage on earthquake be assessed? First, earthquake scale, modified Mercalli is an equipment that can be used to measure the degree of earthquake. Then earthquake damage and usability forms. All right, this can also be distributed to inhabitants to field to complete in order to determine the level of damage. All right, so we have now already come to the end of this. Let me give you your class activity again so you can take your time and see how you can Answer this. Critically analyze tsunami and earthquake as examples of geologic security threats. Remember, that's what we have been dealing on. Taking into consideration their effects, predictability, vulnerability, risk reduction, and impact assessment. Okay. Try to attempt this on your own. If you can attempt this, then you are going to catch all of the area or the aspects that we have treated in this lesson. All right, so you can pause the video to copy the question and try to see how you can answer them. Then you have a self-study. You need to study this. Is more like an assignment. Okay, so go ahead and study earthquake, individual safety measures. I haven't talked about that, so you have to look at that. Then you can bring up questions where you have difficulties. Then we have climatic and environmental security threats. You need to mention that from the beginning, so you will need to study this on your own. It is self-study. However, if you have questions, you need clarifications, bring them up and we will discuss them further. Once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for attending this class. I will be happy to get your feedbacks, get your questions. I will see you again in the next class. Thanks and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.